Sean Diddy Combs was a man who had built a legacy far beyond music. Known for his larger-than-life personality, he was also a deeply empathetic individual, though not everyone knew that side of him. Beneath the fame, the yachts, and the designer suits, Sean was a man who believed in justice and fairness. He valued respect and kindness, and he despised seeing others treated unfairly, especially young people with their whole lives ahead of them. On a warm Saturday afternoon in Harlem, Sean decided to take a quiet stroll through the neighborhood where he'd grown up. It was rare for him to be out without an entourage, but that day he just wanted to reconnect with his roots. He wore a simple hoodie, jeans, and sneakers, nothing that screamed music mogul. To anyone passing by, he was just another man enjoying the city air. Down the street, 16-year-old Jamal Rivers was heading home from the community center. Jamal was a bright kid with big dreams of becoming a graphic designer. He spent his free time sketching ideas for video games and designing logos for local businesses. That day, he carried a small backpack filled with his art supplies and a sketchbook. Jamal's heart raced as he saw a police car pull up beside him. Two officers stepped out, their faces serious. "Stop right there," one of them barked. Jamal froze. He hadn't done anything wrong, but the tone in their voices filled him with dread. "What's in the bag?" the officer demanded, eyeing Jamal suspiciously. "Just my sketchbook and pencils," Jamal replied, his voice trembling. The officers didn't seem to care. They grabbed his bag, rifling through it as if they were certain they'd find something incriminating. When they didn't, they looked frustrated. "We've got reports of someone matching your description stealing from a store down the block," the other officer said. Jamal's eyes widened. "That's not me. I was at the community center all afternoon. You can ask anyone." But the officers weren't listening. They pushed Jamal against the car, cuffing his wrists as tears welled up in his eyes. Sean had been watching from across the street. At first, he wasn't sure what was happening, but when he saw the fear on Jamal's face and the rough way the officers were handling him, his instincts kicked in. He crossed the street with purpose, his voice calm but firm. "Excuse me, officers," Sean said, stepping closer. "What's going on here?" "This is none of your business," one officer replied sharply. Sean didn't back down. "Actually, it is. I saw the whole thing. This young man didn't do anything wrong. You're making a mistake." The officers glanced at each other, clearly annoyed. "Who are you to tell us how to do our job?" Sean pulled down his hood, revealing his face. "I'm Sean Combs. Maybe you've heard of me." The officers' expressions shifted slightly, but they didn't back off. "We're just doing our job, Mr. Combs. This kid matches the description of a suspect." Sean stepped closer to Jamal, who was visibly shaking. "You said he matches the description? Or are you just assuming because he's a black kid with a backpack? Did you check his alibi? Did you ask him where he was?" The officers hesitated. "We're following protocol." "Well, your protocol is wrong," Sean shot back. "This kid has rights. Let him explain himself before you ruin his life over something he didn't do." By now, a small crowd had gathered. People from the neighborhood started speaking up. "He was at the community center all day," shouted Miss Clara, an elderly woman who often volunteered there. "I saw him myself." "Yeah, Jamal's a good kid," added Mr. Lee, the owner of a nearby bodega. "He's always drawing in his sketchbook. He's not a thief." The officers looked increasingly uncomfortable as more voices joined in. Finally, they uncuffed Jamal and handed him back his bag. "Consider yourself lucky," one of them muttered before getting back into the car. Sean placed a reassuring hand on Jamal's shoulder. "You okay, kid?" Jamal nodded, though his hands were still trembling. "Thank you, Mr. Combs. I didn't know what was going to happen." As the police car began to drive away, Sean motioned for one of the officers to roll down the window. Reluctantly, the driver did. "You've got a responsibility," Sean said, his voice steady but intense. "Your job is to protect, not profile. Remember that the next time you see a kid like him, you might save a life instead of ruin one." The officer nodded, seemingly shaken by the encounter. After the crowd dispersed, Sean walked Jamal home, talking to him about his dreams and aspirations. When Jamal mentioned his passion for graphic design, Sean smiled. "You've got talent," Sean said, looking through Jamal's sketchbook. "I know people who could help you get into a good program. Let's make it happen." From that day on, Sean stayed in touch with Jamal, helping him get scholarships and connections to further his career. Jamal's life took a new direction, all because someone cared enough to step in. As for the officer, he later reached out to Sean, admitting that the encounter had made him rethink how he approached his job. He started attending workshops on racial bias and even spoke at local schools about the importance of trust between law enforcement and the community. What started as an act of injustice turned into a story of hope and change. Sean's courage not only saved Jamal, but also left an indelible mark on the officer and the community. It was a reminder that one person's actions could create ripples far beyond the moment. And for Sean, it was another affirmation of his belief. Everyone deserves a chance, and sometimes all it takes is for someone to stand up and say, "This isn't right." That's the story, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure sharing it with you all. Don't forget to comment below and let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see the global reach of these stories. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories, tips, and tricks. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.